Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, welcome. My name is Jessica, and in today's video I have all new fall Dollar Tree DIYs to share with you. This is actually my favorite set of fall DIYs that I've ever done, and I really hope you guys are going to love them as much as I do. I even have some free printables for some super fast DIYs. But before we get started, if you are new here, please do consider subscribing down below. For our first DIY, I'm going to be using 4 of these leaves from the Dollar Tree. This was a new item for this year and I love them. They're really beautiful quality, nice and sturdy, but I had a fun DIY in mind for them. So each one has a letter on it and I wanted to spell out the word fall, but I could not find all of the right letters, so I figured maybe we can just DIY it. I started off by removing the paper from the top of the leaf. It came off pretty easy. There was a little bit left over, so I actually just ran it under some warm water and the rest of the paper peeled right off. But then I had the idea of actually leaving the paper on 2 of them because I was curious to see if it would make a really big difference in the final result. So I figured we could test it out here. That way, if you guys want to recreate this at home, you can see if it's really worth it or not going through the extra steps to remove the paper. So one of the crucial things though is using a really thick paint. So my favorite is this white chalk paint here. I'll leave it linked down below. It covers up surfaces so well. And what I'm doing here is trying to create an ombre effect. So I want all of my leaves to be in the same shade family, but I want it to go from darkest to lightest to give it a really pretty gradient effect. So you can see here, this was after my first coat and the images were definitely still peeking through. So I was a little bit concerned at this point, but after giving it a second coat, it did completely cover it. While that's drying, I'm going to get my letters ready. So I picked up these wood letters in the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree. I did have to get 2 bags because each bag just has 1 of each letter and we do need 2 L's. So you can see here, I'm just showing an up close of one of the leaves with that paper removed. The one on the left and the one on the right still has the paper underneath, but in the final result, it really does not make that big of a difference. To attach my letters, I'm just going to be doing it with some hot glue. But first, I just wanted to place them all right in the center. That way I can kind of get a feel for where they're going to be. And when it was actually time to hot glue them, I did stand each leaf up. That way I knew I was getting it right in the center. I did originally plan on painting the letters white, but after just kind of looking at them on the leaves, I decided to just leave them natural. I thought it looked really pretty and it went well with that light brown color. Even if you leave the letters off completely, I still think this makes such a beautiful DIY. And here's a closer look at the final result. I love how this DIY has a really natural and minimalist look to it, but you can definitely switch it up and give it some beautiful, bold pops of color with some bright paint. This next DIY is super quick and simple. So I'm starting off with 2 of these frames from the Dollar Tree. So they had these in their fall decor area and I love to give these a bit of a make under. So sometimes these backs can pop out really easily, not so much with this one. So we're just going to be covering up the image on the inside, and to do that I actually created some free printables to make this a super easy DIY. So down below in this video description box, I'm going to leave a link for my blog, and once you click it, it's going to take you right here to this article. All you have to do is just scroll down to the bottom where it says free printable and click on the link. I created 5 different ones in total. So on page 1, you're going to have this one up here that says pumpkin pie, baked fresh daily, as well as pumpkin spice everything with a little latte photo. Next on page 2, I kept it pretty neutral and I kind of had a coffee bar in mind for this one. So on the first picture here, we just have some leaves with 2 coffee cups, and then the second image is again very simple. I just have a blush tone pumpkin. And on the third page, you're going to have this picture here that says welcome to our patch with the 3 pumpkins. I just went ahead and printed the first page, so I'm going to be going with the pumpkin pie as well as pumpkin spice everything. You will see that there is a very faint black line, and that is where you are meant to cut. That way you can fit into the picture frame exactly. And I did print these out on cardstock. I just feel like it gives it a much better look and it does cover up that back image really easily. That way you don't have to paint it a neutral color first. I want to point out though, my second picture frame here, the image was super dark. The cardstock did actually cover it up and you don't really see it peeking through, but still, it probably is best to try to stick with the picture frames from Dollar Tree that have the neutral background. And now to attach it, you can just use a glue stick or just some hot glue in the four corners to fit it into your frame. And here is how they turned out. This is definitely a very fast DIY. I think these would look so cute on a tiered tray or even a coffee bar, and they do stand up all on their own. This next DIY is my favorite from this video. So we're going to be creating a candle, and I've made a couple Dollar Tree candles before, but this one is by far my favorite. So I'm starting off with 2 of these tall white glass candles, as well as some of these meltable wax squares. So they have a lot of different ones at Dollar Tree. I went with this one for 2 reasons. The color, but also the smell. This is the pumpkin chai one, and it smells so good. The first thing we have to do is just melt down our wax. So I have a big pot of water and I'm just going to let this set into the water at a medium heat. I don't want it to be boiling, but just a slow simmer to help melt all of that wax. So you'll see here, this one is completely melted. So I'm going to go ahead and take those wax melts. They snap in half super easily, and I'm just going to be adding them into that one container. Squares are going to melt and mix into that white wax very quickly. And the purpose of them is to give it a bit of a scent, but also we are trying to change the color of the wax because we want to create a coffee candle. As soon as I saw this clear glass mug at Dollar Tree, I knew it was going to be perfect for this DIY. Before we transfer the wax, we do have to add a wick to our new container. So you can just take the wick out of one of those melted down wax containers with a popsicle stick and just glue that into our new container. But I actually had a bunch of wicks on hand. I ordered these from Amazon. So I'm just going to go ahead and use one of them. And now I'm actually going to start pouring them in together so they kind of mix and create one solid color. But I am going to reserve some of that clear wax because I want to top off my coffee at the end to kind of give it the appearance of some foam. Now I'm going to let this harden and just prop up that wick in the center. That way it stays in the right place. And I'm going to keep this leftover white wax in that big pot of water to keep it warm and ready to use. So here's my candle after that first color has completely hardened. And now we're going to take that leftover white wax and we're just going to pour it on top. That way when it dries, it does give it the appearance of being an actual cup of coffee. Here's my candle after a few hours, and you can see everything has set, and you can see those 2 different colors here, and I think it really goes a long way in giving this the appearance of being an actual cup of coffee, and this is going to look so cool sitting out on my coffee table. So now I'm just going to go ahead and take some scissors and trim down that wick. And I do have another suggestion. So this is completely optional, but if you have any window clings laying around, you can just attach these right to the glass and they're going to stick to it. That way you can decorate your cup of coffee. So I had this pumpkin one left over for some other DIYs, and I thought it would be really cute. But I don't know, I couldn't decide if I really liked it or not. In the end, I did end up peeling it off, but that is the really great thing about these window clings is that they can easily be removed or put back on. I just absolutely love the look of this one, and I know I'm definitely going to have to make a couple more because this looks so fun by a coffee bar or just on your coffee table. Really cute, and also this is a great gift idea if you wanted to give this to somebody with maybe some autumn mugs or even a bag of coffee. Next up is another super fast DIY. So I picked up these 2 pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, and I really do think they're a great buy for $1.25. They're super heavy and beautiful, but a lot of them had these imperfections on them. So what I'm going to do is just give them a quick repaint, and I'm actually going to be using my gold spray paint today. You can do any color you like. I think a matte color would also look really nice. But I love this gold. I think it's so pretty for the fall, and I actually do plan on saving these for Thanksgiving as well. I feel like gold is a really good color that can transition from early fall to Halloween and then into Thanksgiving. With a fresh coat of paint, these look so much more high-end, and I feel like you can really see the definition of all that detail so much better now. It really pops. These are gorgeous. So I feel like some paint can really go a long way in transforming them. If my Dollar Tree still has these in stock, I'm actually going to pick up 2 more and spray paint them black. That way they can go with these gold ones for Halloween. Next up is a really fun and easy farm truck DIY. So I picked up 2 of these MDF pickup trucks from Dollar Tree, and what I'm going to do first is actually give them a fresh coat of paint. Now you can paint these by hand, but I do feel like spray paint is the way to go. These spray paint really well, and it gives them a nice and even coverage and is super fast. I went with a matte white color just to give it a neutral look, but you can of course use any color spray paint you like. So here's how they turned out after 1 coat of that spray paint, and now we get to go in and add some really fun details. When I create these videos, I actually like to keep a bit of a theme running throughout them, and I like them to kind of be able to be created together and keep a really cohesive look. So to do that, I'm just going to be using these brown colors as the accent colors for the truck. That way they kind of match and blend in with some of the previous crafts. The darker brown just to paint the crate on the back of the truck, and now I'm going in with that tan golden color for the tires. Next, I'm just going to let this dry completely, and now I just want to add one final detail. I wanted a very light pop of color, so I'm just going to be painting a really simple pumpkin in the center of the pickup truck. So to do this, I just created some very simple shapes, and now I'm going to fill it in, and then I wanted to let that first base color dry, and once I did, I went in with a very tiny paintbrush just to create a super tiny little stem, and now I'm creating some small green tendrils that are kind of just peeking out behind the stem. Assemble our truck, I'm actually going to be taking one of these foam floral blocks from the Dollar Tree. So this comes in a pack of, I think it's 4, but I'm just taking one of them out, trimming it down a little bit because it was a little too long, and I'm just attaching it to my first pickup truck with some hot glue. Then I'm going to add some more hot glue on top of that and then sandwich it right in between. And before this sets though, I do like to stand up my truck to make sure all 4 tires are on the ground and everything is even. Now I'm going to be adding some more hot glue on top of that green block and then covering it up with some raffia. This raffia actually is from the Dollar Tree, but I feel like it can be kind of hit or miss with this. If they are going to have it, now is probably the time. They do tend to have this around fall time, but if not, you can pick it up at any craft store or even Walmart. And now for the back of the pickup truck, I found these sweater pumpkin picks at Dollar Tree, and they were just way too precious to leave at the store. I actually bought them before I knew what I was going to do with them, but I think they work really well in this craft. So the wood dowel is a bit too long though, so you're going to see me just kind of hold it up to where I want them to be and then just measure where I have to cut them with my pencil. To cut them, I actually did just use a pair of handheld wire cutters, and they did snip off really easily. I'm going to push them right through that raffia so I can insert them into that green foam floral block. And that is how I created this farm truck. I've actually probably created maybe 5 or 6 different farm trucks on this channel over the years. This one is my favorite though. I just love the look of it. I think it's really neutral, but I love those little pumpkins in the back. Next, we are going to be creating a super large display sign. And to get started, I'm going to be using 3 of those Give Thanks wood signs from the Dollar Tree, as well as this plastic decor piece. I'm not too sure what to call this. They had a couple of these this year. They're actually meant to hang up in your window. They have a little suction cup, and they have a couple different images, and any of the images would work for this DIY. So to get started, I'm just going to take these 3 boards and remove that string because we're not going to need it. Dollar Tree has a bunch of different signs that could work for this DIY. Just see what yours has in stock and just make sure that it is large enough to fit that clear image that we're going to be putting on. It doesn't have to be this picture here. Any board will do as long as it's large enough. And to paint these today, I'm actually going to be using that same white chalk paint that I used for the first DIY because it is super thick and it's going to cover up this dark image here. So I had a couple ideas. I thought maybe I was going to paint the back, but then it had this kind of glue stuck to it, so I thought that might get in the way. Then I thought I could just peel the paper off, but it actually did not want to come up, so I finally just settled with painting over the image. And I figured that white chalk paint would be able to do the trick. So before I actually paint them, I have to give them some supports in the back because I want them to be one large sign instead of 3 separate pieces. So after making sure they were all lined up on the bottom, I just removed that sticker from the back and I got some of my popsicle sticks. So these ones are from Dollar Tree. They are the larger ones that they have. And I thought that by gluing these, it would be able to just give this sign some support across the back. And I am going to be using 6 of these popsicle sticks in total. And I am going to be using my Gorilla Hot Glue sticks. You guys that are familiar with my channel know that this is pretty much all I use for hot glue. I think it's like the strongest one that I've really used. I love it. I'll leave it linked down below. I just order it from Amazon. So I'm going to get started by just holding those boards together as tightly as I can and then putting that popsicle in place and giving it a few seconds to dry before I remove the pressure. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my second row of supports, but I did just want to point out, if you feel like this is not enough, you can add another popsicle stick to these seams here, and that will definitely help it be supported a lot better. Here is how my board was looking at this point. So now I am ready to move on to painting, and I am going to be using one of these foam brushes from Dollar Tree. I feel like it works the best for this type of paint and just to get a nice even coverage over the boards. It did take 2 full coats of paint just to get all of those images covered up. And now I'm just going to be taking some dark brown. This is the same one that I used earlier on in the video. And I'm just putting a little bit on the edge of one of these foam brushes. And I'm just going back and forth really lightly just to kind of help create a wood texture so it can blend into this sign really well. Next, I just pulled out that suction cup from the top, and then the sign does have these little plastic pieces and you can just trim those off with some scissors. Now to attach it to my board, I was going to use Mod Podge, and I think you definitely can. Just put some Mod Podge onto your board, then add your image on top. But I had this Elmer's glue spray adhesive on hand, so I figured I would test it out, and it did actually work really well. So I'm just going to use this on the back of my image here. That way I can just stick it right onto my board and smooth it out. This last step is completely optional, but I did take my Mod Podge and end up doing 1 coat over the entire sign and letting it dry completely just to seal everything in. And here is the final result. This sign is pretty substantial and large, and it definitely makes a really big impact. And those are all of the DIYs that I have for you guys today. I really hope that you enjoyed these. These really are my favorite fall DIYs that I've ever created for this channel, and I really hope that you guys love them just like I do. And next, we are going to be getting ready to do some Halloween DIYs. So stay tuned because those are definitely on the way. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please do consider subscribing and be sure to turn on that notification bell so you're the first to know when I release a new video. Thank you so much for watching.